What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in today. I know I've been kind of MIA in the last week, what with everything going on amid the protests and the rioting and the killing of George Floyd. I wanted to just kind of take a break for a little bit, kind of absorb everything that was going on, see what direction we were headed in. I didn't feel like it was appropriate to chime in at the time. You know, the argument has become so polarized. There's a lot of division right now. I just wanted to let the dust settle, like I said. But I'm here today. And I noticed probably the biggest thing coming out of these protests and the rioting, the narrative right now has switched to defunding police departments. And I think it's really interesting. So just to be clear, when we're talking about defunding the police, because this is the big talking point from all, it's mainly coming from the left too, I notice. But their big thing is that defunding the police doesn't mean getting rid of the police, right? Of course not. It means reforming how we police and taking money from police budgets and putting it elsewhere, right? You want to put it in education. You want to put it in healthcare. You want to put it in community outreach centers. You want to help people out that way. And the thinking is that by investing in communities instead of police departments, you can actually get rid of the crime. You can get rid of the reason for the crime, right? By doing so. And that sentiment of just defunding is echoed in the New York Times. They report that the mayor of Los Angeles announced that he would cut as much as $150 million from a planned increase in the police department's budget. Now, I think that's an interesting thing that they said right there, that they're taking money out of the planned increase, so they're not even actually defunding their police department's budget. So ask yourself, what are they doing there? Are they just trying to kind of virtue signal and look, we're on board? And you're right, we got to get rid of the police department. So we'll just take money out of the planned increase. That doesn't even make sense. Anyway, the article continues. In New York, Corey Johnson, the city council speaker, and Daniel Drum, a council member from Queens, vowed even before the latest protests to cut the police department's $6 billion budget, which they noted had been left almost untouched even as education and youth programs face steep cuts. So that's the big narrative right now, right? Defund the police departments, but we're not going to get rid of them. We're just going to defund them. But then you look at what's going on in Minneapolis, and the New York Times also reports here that 9 members of the Minneapolis City Council, a veto-proof majority, pledged on Sunday to dismantle the police department, promising to create a new system of public safety in a city where law enforcement has long been accused of racism. Saying that the city's policing system could not be reformed, the council members stood before hundreds of people gathered late in the day on a grassy hill and promised to begin the process of taking apart the police department as it now exists. So Minneapolis is looking to actually get rid of their entire police department. Because of racism, they can't get the racism out. I don't know, but I'm worried that other police departments in other cities might try to follow suit. Keep in mind, and I said this in videos before, it's an election year, so when you see these kind of things, especially with cities that have Democratic leadership, they're trying to pander to people right now. They're trying to get everybody on board, and they've painted Donald Trump, right, as the law and order president. He's sending in the National Guard. He's spraying the protesters. And what is a world without police going to be like, right? And I think we have to keep in mind when we actually have this conversation, getting rid of the police doesn't get rid of crime in this country, right? For as much as you want to invest in communities and you want to invest in education, those are the kind of changes that are going to take place for the next generation. We're not going to be the benefactors of this, right? If you start investing in after-school programs and better healthcare in poor urban areas right now in 2020, it's going to be the next generation of kids growing up now who are going to be the benefactors. But in the meantime, what happens then, right? There's still going to be crime. People who own businesses and homes are going to be more vulnerable than ever. And not for nothing, getting rid of police isn't going to get rid of racism. And who do you think is protecting communities of color from racists and all the white supremacists and Nazis, right? All these people who want to do harm to Black and Hispanic and Asian communities. It's the police, right? Those hate crimes don't happen because there's a police force in every town. There's a sheriff's department, there's state troopers who can protect people if something like that happens. And I think what you're going to see is if you actually get rid of the police, there's going to be even more crime. There's no deterrent now, right? Who's going to stop somebody from wanting to rob a bank? You're going to send them to a community outreach center? You're going to send a social worker to try to talk down the bank robber? Doesn't make any sense. And I mean, is police brutality even really that bad? Is it really that much of an issue in this country? I looked at the FBI data, right? So they released their 2017 crime in the United States, and I'm gonna ignore, because I know the conversation right now is on the disproportionate amount of arrests of black people versus white people. I don't even want to get into that. Their total arrests in 2017 was 8.1 million. All right, that's a lot of encounters with police, and that doesn't even count traffic stops and other calls to people's homes that don't end up in arrests. Right, this number doesn't even account for all the arrests that didn't take place, but encounters with police still took place. Then the Washington Post, since 2015, they've been keeping track of all the deaths by police officers to civilians, and this is including armed, unarmed, black, white, Hispanic. I'm not even getting into that, like I said. So since 2015, the yearly average for police deaths is 965, right? And that's 8.1 million arrests. So if you do the math on that, right, that 965 out of the 8.1 million arrests, you get 0.0001%. You get 0.1 millionth of a percentage of police interactions that lead to deaths. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not trying to say that, life isn't precious and that, any death is good or negligible, but for a job that's as difficult as what they're doing, when they're dealing with drug dealers and gangs and violent criminals, and less than a millionth of a percentage point are their mistakes, right? Those are good odds. If you had that much of chance of winning the lottery, right? If your odds were a millionth of a percent that you wouldn't win the lottery, you would take it, right? Those are really good odds. If those were the odds of crashing in an airplane, you would take it, right? Those are good odds. You have a higher risk of getting killed by a coconut than by getting killed by a cop in this country. What was I even talking about? And let's be realistic too. If police brutality was such a big issue in this country, where was everybody the last couple years? Where were all these protesters? Where was everybody doing? Where was the outrage then, right? I mean, is it too far-fetched to say that you're all mad because the TV man told you to be mad, right? Because they broadcasted it constantly and put it in your face and created the outrage? Honestly, I think the people who are at the protests fall into 3, maybe 4 categories, right? And the first category, that's the category that I respect. These are the people who are community organizers, who do this for a living, who do this as their career, where they've been fighting injustice and inequality their whole lives. And of course, they're, jumping at this chance to organize and spread their message, right? The people who run the NAACP chapters in their local communities, the local Black Lives Matter organizers, right? Those are the people that, okay, that's cool that you're fighting the good fight because you've always fought the fight. And not that there's anything wrong with everybody else jumping on board right now, but I just can't help but feel like this has been such manufactured outrage. Because besides them, the people who are at these protests are, white people who want to show off how virtuous they are and, oh, I'm so down for the cause. And besides that, it's bored teenagers, right, who just want something to do. They've been locked up in their houses the last couple of months. Oh yeah, I'll go outside, spray paint something, let's fight the cops. Yeah, they don't even know why they're fighting. They don't even know why they're mad. And I think that's my big problem with it too, is that, again, this is my opinion, right? I know this channel is called Stick to the Facts, and I'm trying as hard as I can to, read the framing and all these narratives and, see what's true and what's not. And so this is my opinion, but it's manufactured outrage. People should have been mad this whole time about this. And you have these fair weather protesters out there who are just jumping at an opportunity because now it's fashionable, right? When Colin Kaepernick was taking a knee and peacefully protesting, nobody cared, right? It wasn't fashionable back then. And they framed it as him, disrespecting the flag and disrespecting the soldiers. But all of a sudden, when Starbucks and Ben & Jerry's tell you, oh yeah, racism is such a big problem in our community, right? Like, it's not authentic. It's all fabricated. I shouldn't say it's fabricated, but the outrage is manufactured. And ask yourself why. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I hope you're being safe right now. I hope you're taking care of yourself and your family. Thanks for watching. I'll have more videos coming out this week. And don't forget, always come to your own conclusions.